Welcome to another episode of Roadside Assistance, where we help you navigate any issues you might be having in your chapter. My name is Derek Stoughton, and I am a member of the Curriculum Development Committee. We're filming this on location in beautiful Columbia, South Carolina, the University of South Carolina. I've got a wonderful group of people to help me out here, so introduce yourself, tell us who you are or what you do.
My name is Jennifer Taylor. I'm serving on the Curriculum Committee as well, and I also serve on your Kappa Psi Alumni Association Board of Directors.
I'm Marco Krzatovich. I'm the National Vice President for Colonization Membership.
Jessica Lee, National Vice President for Student Affairs.
Awesome. I have a question for you guys today, and I'm hoping that you can answer this for myself and anybody who might be curious about this. My chapter has had a long history of a requirement of having signatures, and we think that that's a very, very important thing. Is this something that we can keep doing now that we're on the road to wisdom?
So signatures are one of many ways that chapters try to connect the new membership class with all the brothers, because sometimes you only know the people in your section or you only know the people in your ensemble, and so you don't really get a chance to meet everyone. So I get where it comes from, but to be honest, there's actually a lot better ways to make that connection. And if you think about it, a signature is just such a, my interaction with you is all of 20 minutes because that's what I have to do to get there, and then that's good. I don't even know you anymore. But in truth, you really want to get to know your brothers and your future brothers with a lot of depth. So there are great examples of these where it comes from, either working on service projects together in small groups, where you bring one group of brothers together with one group of candidates as a way to work together. Appendix D in the Vice President for Membership guide in the Road to Wisdom talks about group interviews, different methods of trying to get people together. But generally speaking, think about it from this point. These are people who you are dedicating a lifelong bond to. Signatures, is a 20-minute conversation enough to make that lifelong bond?
The thing about interviews is that it's not just the part or the role of the membership candidate to be able to get to know the brothers. That there should be that reciprocal relationship or that reciprocal want to get to know the candidate as much as the candidate should want to get to know the brother. I think one of the fundamental layers of the Road to Wisdom is this idea that the candidates are coming in and you're bringing them into the fold of the chapter, and you shouldn't have this idea of the brothers and the candidate, but rather it should be here. And I think when you require signatures to do something that's getting to know someone, you create this idea that there is the brother and the candidate. And when you can build in other things, such as interviews and spending time together, more of those social events or those social aspects of the chapter that you're going to do anyway when they become brothers, I think it builds a more authentic and richer relationship in the chapter. And then it also avoids that awkwardness that you get when the candidates become brothers and there's this sort of like this group meshing with this group, because this was designed in a way that you are continually each lesson building that bond stronger because you're bringing them into the fold of the chapter.
I think it's I think it's also important to note that whenever they do finish the process, you don't want them looking back and thinking, I only did interviews, and that's all that they remember. Like, you want them to remember those other social activities that they did and remember a positive candidate experience versus some people might really enjoy the interview process, and some personalities might just be like, this is the worst. Getting a signature is the worst thing ever. Like, I just want to get to know you type of person. Like, they're more of that personable person. So I think it's important to note that you want them to reflect back on that candidate process and think about the positives and not looking at how much of a time suck, bad analogy, but interviews and signatures can be for them in not a positive way.
And the good thing is that the Road to Wisdom, Marco mentioned Appendix D, page 133, 134, 135, there's actually some really great guidelines that brothers can reference. What class interviews can look like, some example questions, some different alternatives to interviews, and this of course isn't an exhaustive list. So I would encourage, if you're a VPM in your chapter, if you have a social chair in your chapter, that could be a great way to kind of partner together and come up with some ideas for things, or just think back to what was a social event you've done in your chapter that you really enjoyed, or using some of those ideas that you might use for recruitment to be able to work together and get to know one another, because in the end that's all you're doing is just taking the time to get to know one another and build that relationship.
Exactly. And then as you're working through these ideas, you can always reach out to the curriculum committee to say, we think we have a good start, can you help us out? Are we keeping in line with the risk management policies? Are we keeping in line with what the Road to Wisdom is about? Are we keeping in line with what makes sense for the people who maybe aren't the same as us? Because you want a chapter that's diverse, not a chapter that all looks the same, all acts the same, all thinks the same. And then submit that as an activity review, because the other thing is you may be building a new groundwork that 30 other chapters would want to know about. So you have a great opportunity using your creativity, which is sometimes our most valuable resource as brothers, to really expand what we can do. And so I would stop with the idea that since we've always done it, that must mean it's good.
Right.
But instead say, I'm in a fraternity that believes for striving for the highest. That doesn't mean strive until you get to a certain spot and then keep doing it forever.
Right.
It means continuously looking at everything critically and really growing your chapter, growing your mindset. And this is a great opportunity to say, okay, that was a great for what it was, and now let's see what we can do next.
I always think that some of the most dangerous words that can ever be said in any organization is, this is how we've always done it. It's always been done this way, because you're not growing, you're not moving anywhere.
Exactly.
If you're not going towards somewhere, you're just getting still and being stagnant, and that's just not a good thing. So you always want to think about moving forward. Let me ask you guys this. So it sounds like some of the things that you're talking about when you talk about signatures could fall under the line of hazing. Is that a fair assessment? Is that fair that it could be seen that way?
I think if you are making a requirement where someone has to do an activity to get a signature, you're creating a really corrosive relationship among you, where I am the brother that has the power, you are the lowly candidate. That is the nature of hazing, and at the end of the day, that's what it's about. It's a power dynamic, and you want to break that. So if the idea of becoming and joining the fraternity, and as a membership candidate, you are a probationary brother. You are learning how to join our brotherhood, but you are already my peer, because you're already my fellow band member, you're already my fellow student. You're not something less than me. I don't have any special knowledge. It's here, and all of us have it, and my mom has it too. It's on the internet. That's amazing, right? Our ritual makes it that much more beautiful. It ties it together. But this information is here, and so don't create that dynamic. And when you do, you open the room for hazing.
Sure.
You open that opportunity. And unfortunately what happens is these things start as small ideas of, hey, this is something new that I'd like to try, and it snowballs. Because the next person says, yes, but I can do more, or I can do a little bit differently, or I can do later at night, or I can do whatever. And so we always want to be cautious of the fact that let's start with what actually values each other as people and what helps someone. Being on my bowling team, as an older brother and getting to know the membership candidates, you will learn a lot about me from bowling that you would not learn from an interview.
Right.
You would learn, well, man, that guy's really terrible at bowling, but also he may actually occasionally be funny, and that's really helpful as a way to get to know someone.
Well, and I think too, when sometimes inadvertently people can be put in situations that are uncomfortable.
Sure.
The location of the interview, hey, meet me at my house and let's go sit in my bedroom. And you're with someone that, if you are in a band the size of Michigan, you legitimately may not know that person at all.
Yeah.
It's intimidating.
And so yes, it's intimidating, it can be uncomfortable. And so I think there's a lot of things to consider that I think on the part of the brother, we can think that it's very harmless and we don't see anything wrong with it, but we don't know anything else about that membership candidate and what could make them possibly feel uncomfortable. And so I think as far as creating an atmosphere of trust and fellowship and brotherhood, anything that you can do that builds that authentic relationship through activities, through service, I think you get, because in the end that's what you're going to do.
Sure.
You're going to do that service together, you're going to have those meetings together, and so I think you build better memories too. And which is not necessarily, a learning outcome for the Road to Wisdom, but I think it's, when we think about our ritual, we want to build better people, and I think it builds better people.
So I have a question then. What happens if we have these chapters who have carried around their gig books for so long, or they've carried around these binders with their interviews, and their mentality is, well, I had to do it and it made me a better brother. But now you're telling me my candidates shouldn't be doing it, or my membership candidates shouldn't be doing it, and they're changing that mental you know what I mean? It's a mental shift, right?
Yeah.
because because the candidates don't do it doesn't mean they're any less of a brother than what you are. Like, so how can they shift that mental focus or that perspective of me being better because I had to do this, but why don't they have to do that?
That's a great question, Jen. I think that the entire road to wisdom is a mental shift. It is a culture shift with the fraternity.
Absolutely.
The way that we approach membership education, this unified membership education where everybody is going to be learning the same content, and it might look different in our chapters. But I think it comes back to, again, you have to ask yourself, and when you submit an activity review, you're asking yourself, what's the purpose of this activity? And what is my intent behind it? And so when you come down to what the purpose of an interview is, and I'll just read directly from the book, is to connect candidates and brothers, to provide dialogue and a deeper level of fellowship. So if that's our goal, what are we accomplishing by making somebody sign a page and you have to spend so much time together and you have to have this list of required questions? It's fake. I mean, it can be fake. And so I think it's asking yourself truly, how does forcing someone to go through what I went through gonna make them a better brother? Or how is forcing someone to do whatever I did, or because this is the way that we've always done it, how does that make us better as a chapter? How does that meet the guidelines that are set within our ritual? And I think when you ask yourself those kind of more introspective questions,
Right.
It's hard to what's the word I'm looking for? It's hard to justify what you're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
And certainly when you look at it too, and when as an older brother, and I did signatures when I went through the membership process. I think for a lot of us on the curriculum process, we're looking back at our own process and going, yeah, you know what, that could have been better, or that could have been different. I think about the fact that I have signatures from a number of those brothers, but I didn't really get to know them.
No.
You know, I had a really deep relationship with my vice president for membership because he was at our membership education meetings. I got to know my chapter president and my chapter sponsor because they attended some of those meetings, and so I got to know them. But for a lot of other people, you know, it was an inch deep and a dollar short. It just wasn't a relationship. It was, well, I know that you have a really funny answer to what kind of dinosaur would you be, but I don't know, why'd you join band? I don't know, like, what is it about this fraternity that keeps you engaged for the rest of your life? And that's the relationship that I want. And if I want that, and I want that deep relationship, then I need to build activities and processes, and not just one activity too. You should not just have one thing that you do, which is how you get to know people, and everything else is not related to that. Every activity, I mean, we're a fraternity that's about musicianship and service and leadership and brotherhood. They should all be interwoven too. So if you're getting to know people, why can't a musicianship event also be a way to get to know someone? Why can't a brotherhood event be a way to learn as be a better leader? Why do these things have to be segmented? And so instead of using well, we've done it and so therefore it must be good, use the approach of we've done it, great, that gives us a great starting point for having a bigger conversation about, okay, so what do you remember about Jen Smith, who seemed like a nice person? Is she even here anymore? No. Does anyone remember her? No. Okay, then we didn't do our job as brothers. We need to figure out how we get to know each other better. Because by the way, if you're a brother that's thinking about the long term of your chapter, long term fraternity, retention for your chapter, a lifelong bond for your chapter, people who come back as life members, people who come back and be engaged in the fraternity long term, it's going to be when you have a deep relationship. It's not going to be with those people who you have a signature in a nice book that you keep on a shelf after you graduate and you probably never look at again.
Right.
You know, it's going to be the people who, they're the ones you give the Christmas card for. They're the ones that you call when it's their birthday. They're the ones you probably don't remember their birthday because it's on Facebook, but when it's there, you're like, oh yeah, that's right, that's their birthday. But those are the people that you have a relationship with. And relationship, in my mind, is what this is about.
Well, and it's so funny that you say that because I've often described this as, if it wasn't for the fraternity piece of our organization, that brotherhood piece of our organization, we're kind of like a band parents association, right? If in high school, your band parents association raises your money, they do all the things for the band, they help move things. I mean, and those are the things that we do, among a host of other things, but those are the things that we do. It's the relationships, the brotherhood, the fellowship that makes us a fraternity.
Right.
And that's why you're here. Sometimes I get a little frustrated and I hear people want these really deep and introspective answers from candidates. We're saying, why do you want to be a part? Not even candidates. Maybe it's just a recruitment event. Why do you want to be a part of Kappa Kappa Psi? Well, it's the people.
Of course.
You're attracted to the people
course.
that are there. You're building that relationship from one another, and that's why you stay. It's the people and the relationships and the bond that you build. When we go to conventions and we get to meet up with our friends, I mean, that's what makes it powerful, is the people.
Right.
And I think when you think about that mindset about our ritual, and you think about the mindset of it, the relationships is what make us go, and then you think back to, okay, what is the purpose of this interview? Well, it's to build the relationship. Well, we can do better than an interview.
Right.
And if you're thinking about, if you're a chapter that has interviews and you're trying to figure, okay, where do we go from here? That's a great starting point, is to say, okay, this is where we're here. What was the purpose of what we did before? Let's write that down first, because we don't want to lose the purpose. If you think about everything, it should go back to, we want people to have an experience that mimics ours or makes sense. Start with a purpose. That's what should mimic the heart or the culture of that. Okay, so if the idea is, well, we want people to get to know each other on a deeper level, but also get to know people, not just as band members. Okay, then what other ways could you do that? And I would start with like the alternates that are in there for interviews. There's some really great ideas about, how does a speed dating group work? I actually like, and I've seen it other places, the bingo cards. We used to do those at district events, where you get to like find someone. It's not just like who's wearing the yellow, blue, and blue. Like it's everyone in Michigan, but it's.
I was gonna say that doesn't really work.
No, it doesn't. It's terrible. It's really
yeah.
unhelpful. But it's like how many? Find someone who is from the same state as you. Find someone who is who plays multiple instruments if you do.
Right.
Find someone. Have them develop these. I mean, there's so many great ways to think about this. And if you think about it, your brain is probably already working about, we could do it this way, we could do it that way. That's the point, right? And guess what? It's going to be different in future years. The next VPM is going to come up with a brand new idea. That's awesome. That's so Kappa Psi, because it's actually striving for something that is better, that is stronger, that fits our needs and fits our maturing chapter. As our chapter changes, our practices should change, our membership education should change. We should keep growing. The road to wisdom will keep growing. It's not even going to stay static year after year. It's going to keep growing because we want the fraternity to keep getting better, to keep getting stronger, to keep meeting its needs.
And keep adapting to to the times, I guess. As the way that students learn, the way that bands operate, we as the committee for Kappa Psi, we've got to develop the road to wisdom as well in order to maintain with the current times. So we just keep that in mind. And one thing I want to add is the worst thing that you can, and I said this before, but the worst thing you can say is because we've always done it. Always ask yourself why. Why are we doing this?
Yep.
What's the purpose? Let's take another look at this. I think you'll find if you do that and ask yourself why, you'll say, because but you see, if the answer is we've always done it this way, that's not an answer. That's not. I think that really that's the biggest point that we can hit on with this is just you should always ask yourself why, and if the answer is because we've always done it this way, that isn't going to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other final thoughts?
No. Thanks.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you guys for watching. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with us. You can send an email, curriculum@kkpsi.org, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.